Hi guys, welcome to Mandy chapter 27. The last chapter, Mandy was at the cottage. She went back to the orphanage and Matron found her and realized that she was really sick. So Matron is trying to take care of her right now. This is chapter 27. So Matron had told Mandy to get into bed and she told Sue to run and get a hot drink. So chapter 27. It was a most exquisite relief to lie down in bed between the cool sheets. Mandy buried her face in the pillow and tried to sort out her chaotic emotions. Was she really getting sick? What would happen if she were? She realized that she was still clutching the note from an admirer in her hand. She read it again. It was a great comfort. At least this was one thing Sue did not know about. Matron came in with a hot drink and some aspirin. She took Mandy's temperature. Not too bad, but that's a nasty cough, Mandy. You'll have to stay in bed until I say you can get up. Oh, but Matron... Mandy sat up suddenly concerned. I can't stay in bed. Excuse me. Matron feigned surprise. You can't? Please don't make me. I hate it so. Mandy couldn't find the right words. I really don't feel too bad at all. Matron sat down on the edge of the bed. Well, we'll see how you go. It won't be for so long. I've asked Dr. Matthews to stop in the morning. He'll take a look at you. She folded her hands. But, Mandy, I'm afraid I must ask you not to stay outdoors as much as you have been doing. She mistook Mandy's horrified look for one of guilty surprise. Yes, I've been meaning to mention this. You're out all day long. We never see you. I spoke to you about it once before, if you remember. I'll say nothing more now, but I don't want it to continue. But why? Mandy blurted out. Because it's late in the year and too cold. I'm sure that's why you caught this chill. Also, it gets dark so very early. I don't think it's safe. Mandy was beside herself with grief. No, that's not fair. You don't understand. You mustn't stop me. Mandy, I don't want any more talk about it. But, no buts. When the warmer weather comes again, we'll discuss this matter. Until then, I do not want you staying out until all hours. You are to return home immediately after school, and you are to stay in the orphanage vicinity on weekends. Is that understood? Matron's words left Mandy feeling utterly desolate. It means really, really empty. How could she explain that taking away her freedom was like taking half her life as well? Her whole being was centered around the cottage, and now that such exciting things were happening, she shouldn't be prevented from going there. What could she say to Matron? Mandy had no desire to tell anyone about an admirer. She was terrified that he would disappear if she so much as breathed a word. And what of Sue? Would she say something to Matron? Or would she just investigate the cottage by herself? Matron hadn't said anything to her about not going out. At bedtime, Sue was quiet and concerned. She made no mention of the afternoon, and Mandy was feeling too ill and miserable to bring the subject up. She was in a dreadfully anxious state. She tossed and turned most of the night. A wind had sprung up, and it buffeted around the big house. Restless, Mandy thought it was a bad omen. She eventually fell into an exhausted and fitful sleep. She never heard Sue get up and leave for school the following day. It was late when Matron Britty bustled in to wake her up. Good morning. She flung wide the curtains. Dr. Matthews is here to see you, Mandy. Do you think you can wake up? Mandy groggily raised herself up and blinked in the daylight. She had had bad dreams and she felt heavy-headed. Dr. Matthews' big frame filled the doorway. Well, now, what do we have here? Someone not feeling too well? Mandy managed a weak smile. She liked Dr. Matthews. He exuded warmth and cheerfulness wherever he went. It was always good to see him. He wore a dark jacket and faintly striped trousers. She noted that he had on a diamond tie pin. He always looked as if he had just come from a wedding. He sat down beside her on the bed. Anything to tell me? He asked. What's been happening in your young life lately? He watched her closely. There's a picture of Dr. Matthews coming to check on Mandy. And Mandy probably does not see a lot of people with fancy clothes on because where she lives, there probably is not a lot of money and people are very poor. So she says Dr. Matthews looks like he's going to a wedding because she's not used to seeing people dressed up all the time. Oh, nothing much, Mandy said to Dr. Matthews. Mandy wondered what he would think if she told him about the cottage. She wished she could tell him. Dr. Matthews examined her chest and her back. He looked into her throat and her nose and her ears. He smelled of antiseptic and expensive toilet water. He liked the feeling of comfort he gave her. Now, my dear, you're really not too bad at all. But do as Matron says and stay in bed. You'll be right as rain soon. He looked down into her troubled face. Bending slightly, he cupped his hand under her chin. You're sure there's nothing you would like to tell me? Nothing on your mind? For an aching moment, Mandy's eyes brimmed with tears. If she could just unburden herself to someone. She shook her head and said simply, I don't like you to go so soon. Oh, Mandy, neither do I, but I have to get to the hospital. I'll look in on you this evening, though. Maybe we can spend a little more time together then. She watched him gather up his instruments and stride briskly to the door. He winked at her and walked out of the room. She listened as he walked quickly down the hall, and she heard him talking quietly to Matron. She couldn't hear what they were saying. How is she, doctor? Well, I want her to keep her in bed for a few days. She does have a fever and some faint sounds in her chest that bother me. But I'll keep a close watch on that. I'll drop by this evening. Anything special that we should do? No, keep her on plenty of liquids and rest, of course. Have this prescription made up for her. He scribbled rapidly on a pad. If she's not improved in a day or two, I'll have her brought into the hospital for some x-rays. He lowered his voice. She seems a bit sad, perhaps a little sorry for herself? Yes, I've been terribly concerned about her for some time. She's been so evasive and I can't seem to reach her. Something is troubling her. She looks as if she didn't sleep a wink last night. I wonder what goes on in the head of hers. She's a sweet child. Dr. Matthews looked at his watch. Hannah, I must dash. I'm late already. Thanks for stopping by, Brian. No trouble. See you tonight. Mandy lay in bed, staring through the skylight at the gray clouds scudding by outside. It seemed so quiet and lonely in her room now that the doctor had gone. The day stretched ahead of her interminably long. Interminably long. Just means really long time. The miserable, lonely ache was with her again. What was she to do? Dr. Matthews had said to stay in bed until she was better. But what if that were 2 or 3 weeks from now, or even a whole week? She thought of the cottage, alone and unattended for all that time. She remembered the other agonizing week when she had been unable to visit it. Her anxieties came flooding back. She sat up in bed, her chin on her knees. What if an admirer left another note for her today? What if he returned later to discover that it hadn't been received? Suppose he gave up trying to communicate with her after a while. What would he feel when he saw that she had neglected to take care of the beautiful plant he'd given her? For the rest of the morning, Mandy worried the problems around in her head. Ellie brought her in some lunch and she picked at it listlessly. She was not hungry at all. If only she could somehow leave a note for an admirer. Tell him that she was not feeling well and confined to bed. That she was forbidden to visit the cottage anymore. He would surely understand. She would leave the orphanage address on the note too. Then one day they could arrange to meet, perhaps in the spring. But how was she to get the note to him? If only she could visit the cottage just once more. She considered taking Sue into her confidence after all, but she wouldn't be back from school until the late afternoon. What if Sue didn't return from school, but went straight to the cottage to see for herself? Is it possible an admirer would leave the note for Mandy as he had before and Sue would discover it? It was these last thoughts that drove Mandy to a foolish decision. No matter how dangerous and risky the undertaking, and even should Matron find out and give her the worst possible punishment, she had to get to the cottage today. Herself. And there's our bunny for the end of chapter 27. So, today for your writing, you're going to make a prediction. You're going to write, does Mandy go to the cottage? What do you think? And then what will happen when she gets to the cottage? Happy writing, and I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 28.